why I wouldn't open a company in Dubai and the UAE if I were you right now, unless you absolutely need it. I'm Rafael, I run Wealthy Expat. We've helped over 1,000 millionaires relocate abroad, get second citizenship, second residency, open companies in Dubai. I lived in Dubai many years, and at this point, it's getting to the point where it isn't really worth it for most millionaires to open a company in Dubai or the UAE unless they absolutely need it. And the reasons are, one, the taxes, tax returns, tax obligations, because obviously we have the 9% corporate tax. It affects everybody. Just because you open a free zone company doesn't mean that you don't pay that corporate tax. The UAE is also aggressive with control foreign companies. So if you live in the UAE, you're a tax resident, you spend more than 6 months, and you have a company in the US, that company in the US can be deemed UAE tax resident as well and pay that 9% tax. If you're a US citizen, you could potentially pay both taxes to the UAE and to the US. So you have to be very careful when opening a company, and the tax obligations, as well as the AML and KYC and reporting for the company. The KYC that you need to do for the company is getting stricter and stricter. AML regulations are getting stricter and stricter. Overall, the UAE is heading in the direction of doing extreme AML requirements because they are being bullied by other countries like the United States, like the European Union, in order to add these KYC and these AML procedures. And on top of that, if you want to get residency in the UAE, it's no longer possible to have a dormant company. If you have a dormant company, meaning you don't send any revenue to it, it doesn't really transact, although you need to register for corporate taxes, you need to register for VAT, it's important that you file nil tax returns and overall be compliant on your documentation, even if the company is dormant. And it's also not possible anymore to have a dormant company in order to get residency. As you can see in this email here, it is not possible anymore to open a company with the intent of just having residency in the UAE. That can cause the company to be closed and your residency to be canceled. So it's no longer possible like many years before, where people just open a company, they get residency, they never use the company. If you are audited for that company, you can always get your residency canceled because they think that you're just opening the company for the residency. Unless you absolutely need to trade through that company, you want to lower your corporate taxes and you're running a big e-commerce business and you plan to actually run revenue through that company. Let's say you have a subsidiary in the United States and your main holding company is going to be in the UAE. You're a UAE tax resident. You're not a US citizen. Let's say you're a Canadian who moved out of Canada, living in the UAE, actually making revenue through your UAE company. You have a residency permit issued by that company. You're paying corporate taxes. You're doing your corporate tax returns. You're doing your VAT returns. Then it obviously makes sense. If you're actually going to run a company in the UAE, then it obviously makes sense. But if you just want to have it for residency, the headaches are just too much. And also the penalties that you can get for not doing these compliance requirements are huge. So you could be paying thousands of dollars in penalties for something that you didn't even plan to do. You just plan to open a dormant company and get residency. Well, the tide is changing. What I recommend is to get a golden visa by investment or by nomination if your plan is to actually have the UAE as a plan B, or to live in the UAE without actually running a company in the UAE. Because for a lot of people, it doesn't really make sense to have a company in UAE. They have a company in Europe, they have a company in Singapore. Singapore is a great place to have a company that is not taxed on foreign sourced income. You can have a company registered in Singapore, and as long as that money is not remitted to Singapore and it's earned outside of Singapore, so it's foreign sourced income, and you don't have control from the company in Singapore, then you can legally not pay corporate taxes on that Singaporean company. You still need to do tax returns, you still need to do yearly reports, you still need to do AML and KYC, but you can legally have a tax-free company. Let's say you have a Singaporean company and you're living in UAE and you don't have any need for opening a UAE company because you don't even plan to live in the UAE. And also be careful, if you're actually going to live in the UAE, that Singaporean company can become a controlled foreign corporation taxed in the UAE. So let's say you just want to have the UAE as a plan B, as a place where you're going to spend a couple of months per year, as a place where maybe in the future you're going to relocate to. For now, you just want to have the residency as a plan B. Much, much better to have a golden visa. You can get a golden visa by nomination if you have a public record, if you have a big business that you can bring to the UAE or that you can show that you're going to bring it in the future. Overall, if you have a clean record and you have a good profile, you can get it by nomination. We've done it many times for our clients. You can also get it by investment. So obviously you buy a property You can buy an off-plan property. You can buy a ready-made property. 2 million dirham qualifies you. And in some cases, a deposit of much less than 2 million dirham qualifies you for that golden visa. Once you have the golden visa, you don't need to visit UAE every 6 months, like with the corporate requirement. If you open a company in Dubai, you have to go there every 6 months in order to keep your residency active. Some people stay away for a year and then they come back and they get detained at the airport saying, look, your residency is not valid anymore. It literally says it on the visa that you need to go there every 6 months or it will be canceled. So if you have a golden visa, you don't need to do that. If you have a golden visa by investment, by deposit, for example, let's say you deposit 2 million dirhams into a bank, you keep it there for at least 2 years, you can get your 10-year golden visa. We've also done that for a lot of clients. If you have any special talents, a special role in a big company in the UAE, you can also get a golden visa, but those get trickier because those are more case by case. Maybe you have a big role, but it doesn't get accepted. I've talked to a lot of people who have a big role outside of UAE. They try to apply for a golden visa and it gets rejected because the UAE government cannot verify that company abroad. It has to be a UAE company in a lot of cases. So it's much better to do it by nomination. Obviously, you can contact us for that. By investment, real estate investment, you can buy real estate in crypto as well. There's a lot of different ways that don't require you to have a company in the UAE and to go through this extra compliance, extra requirements, extra visits, and extra documents when you don't really need to have a company in the UAE. Over time, a lot of millionaires have realized that the UAE is not the best place for them full time. They don't want to spend all their year in Dubai or the UAE. They want to spend some time. Maybe they want to spend 2 months. Maybe they want to spend the winter. So they summer in Europe, they winter in UAE, because a lot of people say, oh, the weather is horrible. But the weather is amazing in winter. So if you don't want to spend winter in minus 10 degrees Celsius, in minus Fahrenheit, you can go to UAE and enjoy 25 degrees Celsius. It's amazing weather, amazing networking as well. You can have good banking. And as I said, you can get a golden visa in order to not have to visit every 6 months. So you can get the best of UAE, the networking, the infrastructure, the safety, the banks. You can get everything that UAE offers without actually living there full time, without actually having to go through all this extra KYC and AML requirements, and have your tax residency somewhere else, because it's not really advisable to be a tax resident of nowhere. I'm not a tax advisor, this is not tax advice, but please don't have tax residency nowhere, because then that ties you to the country that is the most aggressive. If some country determines, let's say you come from the UK and then you become a tax resident of nowhere, you just travel everywhere without any tax residency, the UK, although very tricky, can always claim that you're still residing there. Obviously, there are tests. If you spend very little time in the UK, then you can be considered a tax resident, but you always run the risk of some country coming in with their clause and taking you as a tax resident. It's important to have tax residency somewhere, whether that's Paraguay, Barbados, somewhere that allows you to have it in a very short time. Or you can spend 6 months somewhere where you're a tax resident, maybe that's Portugal, because you're a crypto investor and you're taking advantage of the 12-month allowance of capital gains. So for example, if you wait 12 months when you buy crypto and you sell it after 12 months, then you don't pay cryptocurrency taxes. You spend 6 months in Portugal, then you spend 3 months in UAE, then 3 months traveling. That could work very well for somebody that doesn't want to be tied to the UAE, but still wants to spend significant time there every single year, or have permanent residency and tax residency in a place like Paraguay, or tax residency in a place like Mexico, where it's not really aggressive in their tax system as long as you earn foreign sourced income. So Mexico is kind of a good loophole that I like to talk about. You can become a tax resident, you can become a resident, you can contribute to Mexico, but at the same time, they're not going to chase you for taxes on your foreign sourced income. If you want to find out more about that, obviously, book a call. We can guide you through that process. This does not apply to US citizens and to people that are living somewhere where they are tax residents. So if you're tax resident in Canada or the UK or Australia, it doesn't really apply to you. Now, if you want to pay less cryptocurrency taxes, less personal income taxes, the UAE is still the perfect place. There are talks of rolling out a personal income tax. Maybe it comes in the next couple of years. Maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 7%, maybe it's 11%. Nobody knows. There might be a personal income tax in the future. A lot of people are saying that UAE has been the biggest rug pull in history. They pulled everybody in with zero tax, and now they're just pulling taxes away from people that moved to UAE. We'll see how it develops in the future. I don't want to criticize the government. They are just doing what they are bullied to do, because these governments that are high tax, they have their millionaires from the UK. Thousands of millionaires from the UK are moving to the UAE. Obviously, the UK is going to pressure the UAE government to add taxes. So you can't really fault them for it if these high tax governments are pushing them in order to implement these taxes. There might be personal income tax in the future. For now, 0% capital gains. Very easy to cash out crypto. You can buy property in crypto, 0% personal income tax. It still works for a great amount of people. You can pay 0% taxes legally, 9% corporate tax, enjoy the networking, enjoy the infrastructure, enjoy the safety, and also enjoy the good weather in winter. And you can spend the summer in UAE in other better places. So it still works for a large majority of people. For some people, it just doesn't make any sense to have a company specifically in UAE. If you want to get a UAE golden visa, I explain it all in this video right here, how to get it in a straightforward, very simple way. Check out all the details right here.